everyone, and welcome back to Herding Squirrels, a podcast about modern teams. Today's guest, Boomie Odumade, is a senior engineering leader and fractional VP of engineering who builds high-performing, secure, and resilient engineering organizations. She also coaches engineers and engineering leaders, partnering with them to grow their capabilities and reach their goals. Outside of work, she's active in the tech community, mentors youth, and enjoys salsa dancing and exploring creative adventures with her kid. Welcome, Boomie!
Thank you.
I'd like you to build a model that tells a story about who you are outside of work.
Okay, so it's not the most interesting. So this is me, minus my, haircut, and I like being physically active. It's good for you and also fun. So this is the best I could do for the salsa dancing.
Yeah.
I also, do other exercises. Used to do half marathons. Maybe I should get back into that. And then this is my kid. He was there's no way to get two eyes, but he does have two eyes. So, I love hanging out with him, doing things, teaching him things. And then the well, I'm holding this Lego piece here because building Legos is also a new habit that I learned in the last year that I love, and I love building the flowery botanical things. So I have them all over the house. Maybe I should have had one in the background. And this just yellow seat is like a lounge chair, with some friends. I like hanging out with friends. I like relaxing, self-care, whether that's hiking or watching a movie, going to the theater. So yeah, just doing fun things.
Awesome. I love it. It's a wonderful model, Boomie. Thank you so much. For your next build, Boomie, I want you to think of the best team experience you've ever been a part of and build a model that shows why that experience was so amazing. Let's see your model, Boomie. What did you build?
All right. So I built, I like to say it helps if everyone is going in the same direction. And so this is what I could do for both. Oh my God, I missed them. That fell off. And so we're going from shore, and the orange represents the instructions that we've been given. So it guides us, it pushes us to start rowing. And I use the transparent piece to mean clarity. So when we've got the starting and the clarity, it really helps us to get going. And so this is a boat. Yeah, the green part is a boat. And a lot of time for leaders, we're in between. So, we need to be in various places, guiding, not micromanaging. So I definitely did not use the helicopter. But you're guiding the team, you're guiding various things on the way to meeting the goal. We're in sync. We're going in the same direction. We're communicating. We're transparent. We're, gelling. And when we reach the goal, we're celebrating those wins, which will help, help us get ready for the next goal. So this this shows some of the things that my best experiences are where we definitely feel that clarity, focus, direction, and collaborating together.
Is there any specific one experience that you can think of that would be considered top of the heap or most memorable?
Thankfully, there have been a few. There have been a few, including the last job. So.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Boomy. We're going to jump right into our next question. Think of the worst team experience, the nightmare scenario. Again, something you've led or maybe been a part of, and build a model that shows why that experience was so challenging.
Oops. All right. So this is what I created, and I'll put this on. It's not staying. So first of all, I'm starting from the back, and we can see like so this is like direction. As someone who builds Legos, I'm not making these very sturdy. Um, whoops. Okay. So intentionally, these, as you can see, were being pulled in multiple directions. And so there's confusing information or inconsistent information. Of course, things change as we learn more, that's part of Agile. But if at the end of the day, like the values are misaligned or misconstrued, or one day we're told this is the most important thing, and every day, it's changing, and that can lead to roadblocks and not being able to make progress, which it can be very demotivating. I also had, here, like this, a lot of micromanagement. Micromanagement is very disempowering, um, and then here I had, this is to represent like an us versus them. There are cliques or teams or people who view us versus them instead of going in the same direction, which just continues to lead to roadblocks. You may be getting things done, or you may not. You may be getting things done, or you may not. But, I believe you can be motivated at work, have fun at work, and those teams are the most effective. So when you've got misalignment, lack of transparency, multiple roadblocks, us versus them, or micromanaging, or combinations thereof, it leads to what I view as a bad work experience.
Why do you think that happens? Why do you think the us versus them is so common in the workplace?
I think I in the places where I've seen a lack of us versus them is where we've got the shared context, we've got the shared goals, the reminders that we're all needed to meet the company's goals, whatever the company exists to produce. But so I think it's easy to have an us versus them if people either feel unsupported, or feel that their job's more important than others, or feel other people don't respect their job. There are a lot of reasons why it shows up, but there are ways to prevent it.
Yeah, I hear it's one of the more common things in
It's
organizations, right?
it's
If it's
sadly so
engine,
common.
yeah, if it's product and engineering, right, that's a common one. You've got sales and operations, you've got
Engineering and
marketing,
infosec.
right? And so these things, it's so amazing to see how consistent they are. That there are, and to your point, right? There's ways to overcome them, but it seems to be a common obstacle that some organizations have figured out and some have not. Let's do one more build here. There's been a lot of change happening, moving over the past, right, 5 6 years. Go back to COVID. We've got work from home, remote, hybrid, that whole equation, and now we've got AI all over the place. Build a model that shows what leading through uncertainty actually looks like. What is the real experience of navigating your team through these changes when the playbook hasn't been written yet?
All right. So, yeah, there are a lot of, things have been challenging for years. So there's a lot of things happening that are affecting people, whether financially, physically, emotionally, etc. And so I built a model that shows some of, that coming up. But it's also important to know that there's not a one size fits all approach with people, whether you're leading through good times or hard times. It's not a one size fits all approach. So, what I have here is I let my team know that we're all going through this together. But as you can see, like with one person, I've got a flower, even though I have two in the Lego set, I don't with this person because they have different needs. So, we're going through this together, but I'm also meeting people at their needs. And I'm actually, I think I meant to have this there, but I'm also head in the sand, avoiding it, pretending these things aren't happening doesn't help. So, we're going through this together with eyes wide open. And when there are good things that happen, which there can still be pockets of joy, or wins that we have as a company. I mean, we're building things, there are probably things to celebrate. We can celebrate those things, without it being, we can celebrate those things. And when there are hard times, we can acknowledge those hard times. So we're not ignoring either. We're going through this together, being as transparent as I can be. There are there are a lot of unknowns, right? I don't know those things either. I don't have a crystal ball. So I'm not going to give false positivity, toxic positivity. I'm going to, I'm going to share and support and make the environment something we can thrive in, at least during the hours we're at work.
I love it. I love it. I'd love for you maybe to apply that, or just even your thoughts and feelings as well onto where we're at with AI right now. Right, it's a storm of
Right.
many applications of not being left behind on a amazingly unique technology that's unlike anything we've ever seen. Yet at the same time, we still have to make smart business decisions. How do you lead through that? How do you lead through that both from a technical innovation, but also a cultural change, a massive cultural change, and just how we look at work?
Yeah, so AI is powerful and getting more powerful. At the same time, it there's so much hype around it that knowing what's real and what is maybe is and what is not quite there can be a challenge. At the last company, we did decide to allow, initially it was Cursor, then it was Copilot, but at the time there were still limitations on some of that. So it was a conscious, we went through a process of spelling out what it was capable of and not capable of, having a few people pilot, share the capabilities, and we left it up to each engineer who whether or not to use it. Some took it wholeheartedly, some didn't trust it quite yet. I've heard a lot of other leaders say their executives or the board will say things like, do something with AI. And even though AI is powerful, it's important to view it not as a solution looking for a problem, but if we understand what it's capable of, what limitations it has, and continue to keep up with how it's changing, we can use it in ways that are productive and helpful. But if it feels like it's being shoved down people's throat, they're actually not going to use it even for the things that can make it productive. And I think it's also helpful to acknowledge the fear around it, that even if someone uses it, they may still have fears that it may make them obsolete, or and the fact that we've had all the layoffs hasn't helped. So yeah, AI is powerful, it has its place, but it helps to apply it in the places where it's helpful. At a recent conference, maybe even Lady Danger, where I saw you, someone pointed out that having AI write code, we want AI to do the things we don't want to do so we can do the things we want to do. And engineers like to write code. So why are we saying AI should write the code and then engineers do the reviews? So I think there's a way to make this work, but I don't think it's a throw AI at everything. And
I love the phrase you used from the board, right? Do something with AI. This feels like
right,
a common mandate where right the tops of organizations and boards are seeing right the news, they're seeing these amazing stories and applications that supposedly exist, yet at the same time they don't necessarily understand the limitations and the
right.
risks associated with that. How do you manage up in those types of scenarios as a CTO?
Thankfully, at my most recent job, there was intention. I was able to have conversations about the capabilities as well as where it wasn't. But I know, as I'm doing fractional, I know this may be part of my job. So what I've thought of doing is you don't want to appear to be an AI skeptic, which I'm not, so but finding that line between showing, okay, here are the things AI can do, here are the limitations, show ways it can be helpful. Um, there are as many stories as there are about, oh, it did this amazing thing. There are also the stories about it did this scary thing, like it deleted a production database, so share having all the context, not just the happy context, think it helps. And when sharing the risk, it's not here are the risks, so we're not going to use it. It's here are the risks, here are the capabilities. We're going to take those two things together and look at the business case. It's not a cookie cutter approach. The fact that this worked at Meta or someplace else doesn't mean it will work for us. But based on our business use case, our business needs, our team makeup and structure, here are the ways we can use AI to be productive or to not fall behind the competition if that's the fear. Now executives and boards also have their own fears, right? So sometimes those mandates are coming from, so there's fear here, there's fear there, and and so understanding the fears and finding where the capabilities can help will hopefully help us move in the same direction. And if not, at least we've got the awareness. So, for example, if we say we're going to use AI coding assistance, we know the limitations, so we know that it does still introduce bugs, it does still introduce security vulnerabilities, maybe less than before. So you still need a human to verify and validate things.
I really love how you honed in on the fear piece of that, because it how much of right what's driving our work is potentially motivated by fear of missing out from a new
Right.
technology, fear of falling behind to our competition, and yet on the other side for engineers, fear of maybe losing our job or fear of even losing the things that we enjoy doing. I think you really
Exactly.
pointed that out. How do you get to that fear and address it with these groups? That sounds like such a challenging thing to do.
It is challenging. I think it's a little bit easier to acknowledge it with the engineers. I guess thankfully my engineers have all and managers have always been open with me. We build that relationship and that trust. And even if they're not saying it, you can sometimes notice it in behaviors. It's a little bit harder, but not impossible to try to address that fear upwards. Like when I don't know, like I go to my boss and say, I think you're afraid of this. And that's not how I'm going to say it. So I'm going to approach it I won't say that too direct either, but, but still,
Right.
I think finding the right words to show that you understand where they're coming from, you are still a partner, and trying to get at what the actual goal of things are. Some places will have goals written down, maybe even detailed in things like OKRs. At some places, it's more, it's maybe more hand wavy, but trying to if we can share what the goals are, we can address the goals, and then whether they're based on fear or not, at least it helps to know we're marching towards those goals.
All right, Boomy, we've got time for one more build. I want you to imagine you have a room full of other CTOs, and I want you to build your model of leadership advice for this group moving forward, including the challenges of keeping people engaged at work across multiple generations, of adopting AI, and all the challenges that CTOs have these days that maybe didn't exist 10 years ago. Build the Boomy model of leadership advice.
All right. So this is the model. The idea here is that a lot of what CTOs have to do is a balancing act. And so first up, we've got the business goals here. We're hired by the company to reach the business goals, and we've got the people who are doing the work, and we need both. So we got to balance, you can care about the company and the people at the same time. We talked about AI earlier, but right now we still need people. So, and so again, another win-win situation. Those things don't have to compete. And here there's more balancing. Like I again use the transparent thing for transparency. Sometimes and if sometimes if we're not sharing the right level of information with people, they imagine the worst. We can't tell them everything, but we can balance being transparent enough, and so that's another balancing act. If you're hands-on CTO or VP, also balancing how much you are getting involved versus delegating, because people grow by taking on more, and you don't want to stunt up people's growth. um and I had this for there are multiple articles about how middle management is burning out, and I don't think they consider CTOs in that, but I think they should. And we want to avoid burnout by, again, balancing. So like this should be like an Exxon burnout. So I think it's important to take care of ourselves, take care of our people, take care of the business, balance all those together.
Love it. Boomie, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
I have to ask, what was it like building your thoughts and ideas out of Lego bricks?
It was interesting, especially with the pieces. Yeah, like I said, I've built a lot of Legos recently, but there are always instructions, and when I have extra pieces from them, I have a lot of extra pieces that have accumulated. So, it was fun, but it was interesting.
Awesome.
So I would
Awesome.
I would do this again.
Very cool. So, Boomy, if our listeners would like to find more of you out on the internet, where can they locate you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best way. LinkedIn.com in Odumade, my last name. My website for fractional is at techbees.me, like a buzzing bee, multiple techbees.me. And yeah, and I'm in various Slacks. So if you're in CTO or RANds or yeah, I'm in multiple Slacks as well.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be sure to include those in our show notes so folks can find and connect with you, Boomy. Otherwise, Boomy, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure seeing your stories come to life with Lego bricks.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this podcast. It's fun.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And again, this is Herding Squirrels, where we uncover the nuts and bolts of teams.